Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mail Right podcast. We are beyond excited to have the Chief Marketing Officer from Showcase IDX with us today. Can't tell you how grateful we are that you made the time to visit our little corner of the internet today. So, John, I'm going to skip you and me for the moment because Kurt's definitely the rock star for this particular show. So, Kurt, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to anybody who may not know who you are, who Showcase IDX is, whatever.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Always blessed to be to join anybody's tribe and get that little bit of trust you all give by letting me come on. So I work with ShowcaseIDX.com. So at ShowcaseIDX.com. For those that aren't fully in real estate, I know that's where you all very much lay into and help with. Is we're that home search. So by far the dominant home search in for individual agents. They help thousands of agents across 100 plus brokers as a team. It's the only home search that consumers consistently choose over Zillow, which is saying something. So there's both a huge benefit from the organic side, but people like to use it, and that's a good thing. Myself, though, I've helped create 3 of the marketing channels that we all use today. And so when I kind of got, wasn't looking to come into real estate, and so I had a fraternity brother reach out to me for some personal advice. And a couple days later, I ended up actually joining Showcase. And so it's been a wild ride over the last 5 years. So.
Okay. Well, you can't drop that intro and not have me ask what are the 3 channels that you helped create, because I didn't have the time, obviously, to do the deep enough dive to figure that out. So now I'm just super curious.
Yeah, so initially, location-based marketing, location-based targeting. So I was at a company called Navtech, became Here Technologies, and so any targeting of ads based on where the individuals are. Actually, I created some of the initial patents that Google and Apple and others and Amazon have licensed to do that targeting. And so as marketers, we all do that today. Say, hey, I just want to show these ads to people, real estate agents in the state of Georgia. So we built the data for that and all the core technology that was licensed for that initially and is now used globally. And then social media management. So I was one of the 2 companies that really was the enterprise plays for. We helped Facebook start their APIs for all the pages and social media management. Hootsuite would have been what each of us would have used individually with clients and things, but we were at a company called Vitru that Oracle ended up buying. And then I started one of the first influencer marketing platforms. Influencer marketing has been around for thousands of years in one form or another, but the true platforms that people go out to use, I helped start one of those. So.
Well, it's I'm sure that you looked at that billionaire that just bought the $100 million home here in LA, who is the king of influencer marketing, and you probably said, I wonder if I missed the boat slightly. But
we made a lot of other people good money. So like even on that location company, it's like, some of us did okay, but the investors did a lot better. So, but at the end of the day, it takes individuals to make technology work. So I tend to be the operations person and the person with a high-end technology background, but it takes people like you all that actually use those tools, because most agents, most individual businesses, like either they're not capable of it or they have other things in their business to do. And so it's like, it's one thing to do the technology. It's another thing to make something magic out of it, like you all do.
Got you. All right. Well, that's hell of an intro. Super excited to get into it. I don't know what we're getting into, but we're going to get into it. John, why don't you, for those of you who don't know who John is, he is my fearless co-host. He is a technologist himself. He is a long-time entrepreneur. He started many different businesses, one of which happens to be in the real estate space, helping realtors out with websites and things of that nature. But for those people that may not know who you are, John, why don't you go ahead and give your own elevator pitch real quick?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. It's my birthday today, Rob.
Happy birthday. You never tell me that. So congratulations on making it yet another year.
Yeah, it's true. I feel very blessed to make another year. Actually, just to correct you, Rob, I've only run 4 businesses in my whole life. And
using the benchmark of 0, I still feel comfortable with my accreditation of many.
Yeah, you would say
most people have started 0 businesses.
0.
You've started 4.
Yeah.
That is many in my book.
Yeah, well, but you hear these people, they've had loads of businesses, haven't they? You hear some of these online. But yep, I'll take that. I'm the joint founder of MailRight. We build great WordPress websites, semi or full custom for real estate agents. Plus, we've got a CRM. We do text, email marketing all on our own platform. And it's all at a great price. And we link that with Facebook and Google paid advertising. Back over to you, Robert.
Cool. And today I'm your voice host. My name is Robert Newman. I'm a 14-year veteran of the real estate marketing industry. I've started a couple of tech companies of my own. InboundREM is the only inbound marketing company that focuses on real estate in the US. And if you're interested, you could go to inboundrem.com and learn plenty more about me and what that company does. All right. With no further ado, we're going to jump into it today, and we're going to talk about a component of real estate that I feel is talked about ad nauseum. But we here on this show, Kurt, haven't had a conversation about IDX in maybe a year. So you stand alone in terms of our recent podcast episodes. I think the last time that we talked about IDX is when we had the previous CEO of IDX Broker on the show, Chad, and I'm going to blank on his last name, but we had Chad on the show probably a little over a year ago, and that was our last conversation about IDX. So let's jump into this. What would you say makes Showcase IDX different from other IDX tools that are out on the market? Let's start there.
It's from most, I mean, the main competitors, and so I separated to, is it an all-in-one, so part of the whole website that's built in, or an all-in-one like an Inside Real Estate, or is it a standalone IDX like Showcase, IDX Broker, iHome Finder? And so for us, we're the only one that's actually part of your own website. All of the competitors, while they may have little widgets that will embed into your sites, the main search either takes place on a subdomain, search.kurtuhlir.com, or they're going to take place in iframes. And no matter what anybody tells you, when you go look on the technical side, Google is smart enough to tell that when a subdomain or an iframe, that it's not on the same server as the rest of your site. So it treats it very different. And so not that you can't get organic traffic, but good luck ranking for most of the buying keywords with any of kind of the competitors there, because like Google doesn't give that credit to kurtuhlir.com. They're going to give it to whoever's hosting that subdomain website or the iframe, which is really all the competitors tend to run on. That's different than the all-in-one solutions that are out there as well. And so we have clients, like I kind of give the example, I think every agent could be Patrick Higgins. Patrick Higgins is a Compass agent in Nashville, Tennessee. He has NashvilleHome.guru. I didn't even know there was a .guru until he became a client. He gets, you go look up in Ahrefs, you go look in, SEMrush, you'll see the numbers that he gave in the testimonial. He gets 50,000 organic visitors or more on a monthly basis from Google. And it's not just because he dropped a $100 plugin in there, but it's what his team does with that technology. And it's like, you're just not going to find those success stories with competitors. So that's where I think a lot of people come, but people stay because, or a lot of agencies bring, is because there's that retention. There's this huge drop off, third-party reports saying, so not me, not my mom saying that we've got the best home search, but you look at the competitors and people go, yeah, you may get the lead, but there's a 85 or 90% chance that the buyer will still go to Zillow to do the home search. So a competitive agent's going to call your client. And Showcase IDX is on the opposite end of that spectrum. People actually tend to use it and come back to your site.
Copy you. So I actually, John, give me one last second. I should have opened with this question, and it escaped me. So I'm going to do a follow-up, and then John, you booked this guest, so I know you reached out and did all the things. So I suspect strongly that you have your own list of things that you really are dying to ask. But one more question for me. I'm curious to know. I looked up your resume, and it reads like any really strong tech digital resume would, which you don't see inside the real estate space. Not really. There's only a handful of people that really have a deep and solid tech background. Even when you look at the founders for real estate marketing companies, you find a couple of developers here and there, like Ben, who did Sierra Interactive. You find a couple of SEO guys like me and Morgan. You find a couple of, but there are not that many true technologists. Here and there, you find like the guys over at Playster who were experienced technology startup guys, but they had no experience inside real estate. So you're an experienced tech guy. What in the world got you to say yes to an IDX plugin company?
And a small IDX company as well. So I had taken 18 months off on a sabbatical after exiting an influencer marketing company, and had been doing consulting for about another 18 months. And literally had what's now a friend and coworker, Alan Pinstein, who started Showcase IDX back in like 2003. But it also started another real estate company called technology company called TourBuzz, which he had sold. And he reached out to me, and it was like, we didn't know each other, just fraternity brothers from different schools. And it's like, hey, you talked to, the intro was like, you talked to your wife and letting you take a while off. That seems like a hard conversation. Can we grab coffee? I'd like to know how that conversation like even gets started. And he told me about Showcase IDX, and like he wasn't bragging, but like as I asked questions, it was clear that technology was light and day versus anything else that's out there. And I asked them, hey, would you want me to talk to them, because market adoption was their issue. And he introduced me to Scott Lockhart a couple of days later. And Scott Lockhart is a salt of earth, wonderful person, decades of time in real estate. So he's got that background in real estate, as does Alan that you mentioned. And I was like, wait a second, you already have the technology, and selling it and getting people to use it is the problem. I can help with that. And so I think it was 5 days from conversation with Alan to meet and Scott finding terms that I agreed to and joined. So that's kind of how I came in, not at all looking for it whatsoever. There are some deep technology people, but it's not who the average agent will get. Like if you go talk to, the gentleman who's founded and runs Tribus, deep technology, way more technologist than I am. But he builds things for big brokerages. And it's like, that's the average agent doesn't just spin up and go, hey, I want to go pick up Tribus.
Right. Okay. Interesting. John?
Yeah, that's great. So Kurt, you mentioned about this agent that's getting, I think you use a figure, 15,000 hits on his website.
A lot more.
A lot more
50.
than that.
50 is the number.
50. 50.
Thank you. What do you think are some of the things, because I try and put myself into the shoes of our listeners and viewers. So I try and ask questions that they're probably wanting us to ask. So what are some of the things you think this agent's doing, utilising Showcase IDX the right way? How they're utilising that technology? Give a couple of examples, could you, that you feel they're using it that gets them that type of success?
Yeah, fundamentally, he's building community pages. You can see it if you go looking at any reports on SEM Rush or anything about the pages. He builds these local community pages. So he's in Nashville, but you can go look. I lived in Nashville for a number of years, and so there's a suburb, Brentwood, Tennessee. He'd have a page for Brentwood, condos in Brentwood, townhomes in Brentwood, open houses in Brentwood, and he has a process that they just build those out over time. I think too many agents, they think about their website as, I build it, then I'm done. Yeah. And Patrick didn't take that approach. He built it, knew that people don't generally search for addresses. They search for subdivisions, communities, property types and areas. And he's just started building those community pages that uses Showcase IDX technology, but then he puts his own unique words on there. So first of all, he has the page. Just having that standard operating procedure and says, hey, look, I'm going to build 2 of these or 5 of these every week is what most agents won't do. They either want to write a small check or a big check and be done with it, as opposed to start it up and just start building these over time, because anything in marketing, as we all know, whether it's inbound, drip campaigns, pay-per-click, SEO, it takes consistency. And so refining things. And frankly, Patrick wasn't scared. He got started. Did he do the first pages perfectly? No. Just like none of us did our first podcast perfectly. This version is probably way better than the first 5 that you did. And so he just keeps doing those time and time again. And there's lots of examples of customers like that. RedWagonTeam.com is another one. Jay Valento. He now at this point probably has thousands of those community pages, but he started by just building a couple.
Right, that's great. Just observation, I don't know if you agree. I think also a lot of people, they get a bit daunted by the whole concept because they're busy with other things.
Yeah.
So you see a lot. So these community pages, these guide pages, a lot of them are very cookie cutter and they don't have a lot of value because they. So what are of the successful community pages you observed? What are some of the key things that you think people really love with a good quality community page?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, there's always those two audiences that agents just need to be aware of. There's the consumer, the buyer and seller, and there's Google. And so the consumer's never gonna the consumer's only ever gonna see your page if you send it out to them, unless you can make Google happy. And Google wants something different. If you did, we'll stay with the Brentwood, Tennessee example. If I did condos in Brentwood, Tennessee, if I don't put something unique on the page, even if there could be 100 agents using Showcase IDX in Brentwood, and if they're all going to be the same basic listings that are available for condos there, unless you do something different. And so what the different is, what would you say if I was an agent, or if you were an agent and I called you and said, why should I buy a condo or not buy a condo in Brentwood, Tennessee? Agents tend to get locked if you ask them to write that down. Go write me 300 words or 800 words about why somebody should buy a condo in Brentwood, Tennessee. They'll freak out and they'll find every reason for the next 3 months to not write something that if I just called them on the phone and said, hey, I've got $300,000, I want to buy a condo, they could all talk for 3 minutes on that. And so the successful agents, they find some way to get unstuck. Some cases it's writing it. I mean, I literally find that, the agents that really get unlocked is they'll leave themselves voice messages and then send it to their virtual assistant, or they'll do a voice note and then they'll just send it to like rev.com to transcribe it for them, because every agent in an area could talk enough to get any of the content we would want to see as a marketer, like we all are, on those community pages. But if it doesn't get out of the agent's head onto the page, Google's not going to see it. But when Google sees it, they'll rank it, because that's not something that Zillow can do. Zillow may have more listings and coverage for your area, but Zillow can't write unique content about moving into that property type in your area or that neighborhood. And you as an agent can. And when people do that with the right technology, Google pays attention.
Well, over to you, Rob.
So there are a lot of innovative things that Case IDX has done. Things that they stand alone in. Interactivity with the audience, viewing properties together as a group. These are innovations that Showcase IDX has put into the marketplace, have comments on a property, stuff like that. Like they created properties and then they made a little widget that says you can add a comment as if it was a blog post. But I think that the comment then gets sent to the person who owns the site. So instead, for the website user, it's a tricky way to increase engagement on your website using your property search tool as an engagement inducer. So
it is. It's also that way of, look, I mean, no matter what site you're on, whether it's Zillow or not, nobody searches for a home alone. I mean, if you're married or you're in a relationship, you're searching with your partner. So you're texting or emailing them links from Zillow or other places. If you're single, you're still texting your friends. Hey, I saw this place, or you're asking your mom or your ex or something. Hey, what do you think about this place? And so that same widget allows you to invite people just into that private search on the site, and choose whether or not you can actually, as a home buyer, not let the agent see that. You can turn that off in your settings, and at which point it's like, no, then that's just a private conversation between me and my wife. Or I can uncheck things and say, hey, I want the agent who owns the site to offer feedback on this.
Okay. We're going to go to break, but when we come back, I'm going to see if you have, so I already personally, between me and John, I was already familiar with Red Wagon Team and Nashville Guru. They have, one, come up in my consultations with people as websites to chase, and two, they have come up for me as a entrepreneur, because we have been using IDX Broker for a long time due to some visual customizing things that I happen to really love about IDX Broker. However, I have probably looked more at Showcase IDX than most of the people that you will speak to that isn't actually a client using the tool. And I have some questions that
awesome.
I personally
would love the
know.
feedback too. There's things I do like about IDX brokers. If I was running an agency, there are reasons I might use them as well too. So
yeah. So with no further ado, we're going to come back and do an even deeper dive than we've been doing. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned, stay buckled in. We'll be back in a number of seconds. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Mail Riot podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We are in a conversation with Kurt. And Kurt, am I saying it right when I say Uhlir? Is that correct?
Yeah, Uhlir. You have to say
Uhlir.
closer to the way the Czech pronunciation is, but my family says Uhlir here.
Uhlir. Okay. Uhlir. All right, Kurt Uhlir.
Yeah.
To be fair, I travel a lot, so I would normally go towards the natural language pronunciation of the word. So Kurt Uhlir. We're here with Kurt Uhlir, who's the Chief Marketing Officer for Showcase IDX, and I'm here with my co-host as well, Jonathan, the founder of MailRight, and of course I'm Robert Newman, the founder of InboundREM. Welcome back to the show. We are here talking about Showcase IDX, and now I'm about ready to ask some questions that may make most of you have their eyes glaze over, but there might be a handful of you brokers listening to the show that are kind of curious about some of these same things. So one of the things that I've noticed, and it's not your fault, I got to say this before the audience sake, Kurt, this isn't a Showcase IDX issue. This is a person using the website issue, which is not Showcase IDX.
Yep.
Showcase has done a great job of providing a tool that helps realtors get traffic back to the site. Got to just massive full disclaimer right up front. But I've discovered that with the kinds of pages that some of these guys are writing, that while they do occasionally elicit response, oftentimes the response is extremely low quality, false leads, things of that nature. I'm curious to know that as the Chief Marketing Officer, have you spoken to these customers and have you ever asked the question about ROI on these sites? Like, I don't doubt that there's massive lead generation. I'm saying specifically, do these leads convert into sales?
Yeah, I've asked that question. So, I mean, different sites do get hit with sometimes waves of spam that come up at times. And I mean, in some cases that also just happens as you start to rank much more, you're gonna get more lower quality leads. And so to some degree, if you have a site that doesn't rank, you're not getting very many leads. And so in my experience, like pay-per-click leads tend to be pretty good for getting responses. They're not always the best from converting to closed transactions, which is also the ROI that I really like to ask. And so for me, I end up looking at and asking questions about what happens to your closed transactions with using Showcase IDX, whether organic or pay-per-click compared to others as well. And so those tend to be very, very good. I do say, I don't care what you're using, whether in your real estate or not, you need to be able to vet and pull out clients and choose to who not to work with, especially as your business starts to grow.
Sure. So the answer is the case studies that you've talked to, they are definitely they are taking some of the leads that they get, no matter how and we're attributing them to the website and Showcase in particular, because if most search tools, that is the primary lead driver for most agents, not as an inbound marketing company, by the way. We get a lot of phone calls off phone numbers, but as I also, since we're using IDX Broker, we get leads through IDX Broker. They tend to be lower quality than the actual calls that we get. That's why I'm asking you the question is I'm just curious to know if you'd ever dived into that with a client.
I have. It does also depend on where that traffic comes from on the page. And so those that are getting their traffic and leads from those community pages, especially where they've written the unique content, the quality of those leads are impeccable is what I hear. The issue is sometimes, this is using technology for good and bad. You can also use the technology to also drive a ton of traffic to your homepage, which is going to be generally a lower kind of quality lead, no matter what industry you're in. But if we stay with that Brentwood, Tennessee page, if somebody searched for Brentwood, Tennessee or Brentwood condos and your website shows up and I choose to click on that, there's such a high, one, that's a very buyer related keyword. But also then the trust that comes with you as that local agent over a big national brand tends to be much higher. If on the other hand, I end up getting driven to your homepage, it's kind of brand versus brand at that point, at least in my experience. And so I've heard a little bit of that too, but the leads on those individual community pages are quite high from a conversion perspective. Now with that, I also personally, what I like in the experience, I love the organic side of it, where I see things then have a 10x increase for agents is when they built the community pages with the content and they bring it into their inbound, either on the pay-per-click side or just their content marketing. So what happens when I meet somebody that's out in the real world or somebody my team does, and you say you're looking in Brentwood, we'll say with that example, and my follow-up to you is a community page with 500 words of unique content on Brentwood, Tennessee. Now, I've just passed the vetting test with you that that Zillow's not going to have. Most agents aren't going to have, because they may have a community page, but they're not going to have anything that kind of details those two. But it also gave the agent something to follow up with. And I just say, like, from the inbound, that's when I see things really start to change, is when the agents take the inbound upon their actual relationships. I had another agent in Florida. How many people buy vacation condos? Well, he went after he started building community pages. Him and his son run a site together. When he met somebody, instead of just giving them his business card and hoping they'd follow up, he'd be like, "Oh, look, you're around this weekend. Hey, Robert, can I? There's some open houses here." And so he bring up his site because he knew it, and he'd like, if you just send this email to yourself, just give me your email. It'll send you to a page where all the open houses are for condos at the beach that you like this weekend. Well, that was the first part of his process. It changed his interactions, because it's a sales thing when I give you my card or I ask for your info. When instead I have that open houses that are available this weekend, you and your wife can go look at, I just gave you something then. Mm-hmm. So he was like, people almost 100% they would take his phone and enter their email address to forward the page to himself. The game changer after that was when his inbound marketer said, "Do all those people sign up?" And he was like, "Well, not all of them." And they went, "Could you just go through your sent emails on Sunday and send me the people that you met that didn't sign up? I'll follow up with them." Those two things, it's the content and the inbound side that changes your interaction. So you're not a salesperson at that time. You truly are a service person at that time.
Yeah. That is a fascinating case study. John, please remember to send me this show. I'm going to have to go back and review that. That sounds deeply fascinating to me. And I might even follow up with you, Kurt. It's been a while since somebody has made me like sit here and think if I want to change the consultations that I give, the strategies that I apply to my business. Usually I'm a little bit out in front of the pack, because doing information marketing, and trying to inspire response is very different than doing push marketing or trying to send somebody into a landing page and then grab their email address, usually through like hiding something or telling them that they have to register, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, fascinating. John?
Yeah, thanks. So both me and Rob utilize WordPress, and I've been involved in the WordPress community for 15 years, and I run one of the biggest podcasts in WordPress development community on the internet. So me and Rob, we're quite passionate about utilizing WordPress ownership, all the benefits of customization. But what do you say to people? Why should they look at a WordPress website utilizing Showcase IDX rather than, let's say, Real Geeks or a number of total SaaS-based enclosed platforms?
That's a great question. There are other platforms. I mean, as you all very much know, Wix and Squarespace, and God, if I hear Webflow, like, no, never use Webflow. Like, I understand why the creative designers that want to move stuff by a pixel care about it, but don't use Webflow, people. But WordPress is just so far advanced. Like, Wix and them, may come along with it, and I hope that they do, because they have a ecosystem similar to WordPress. It's just most of us that build the technology, we can't integrate with those the way that we can with WordPress. And so the ability for our technology to integrate with WordPress and in a proprietary way make our content, those home listings, appear native to Google is something I just can't do on other platforms right now. So always choose WordPress. But there's nothing wrong with doing a Real Geeks or a KV Core or a Sync or something like that. But I think the agents need to think about it in terms of, do they want an all-in-one or a tech stack of best of breed? And so, like, we almost all have that multi-tool that you kind of has pliers and you open it up and it's got a knife and it's got like a Phillips head screwdriver and a bottle opener. And like, that's useful. It's nice. Like KV Core and Sync and Real Geeks, they're nice because they're just all together. And so if you don't have somebody like one of you to one of your companies to help put together the full stack, they're just going to work out of the box. But are they the best? Well, no. I mean, but they serve a good purpose, and that connectivity is wonderful for a lot of agents. But it's like if any of the three of us were going to, I tell people, hey, even though that's a good tool, that multi-tool or Swiss Army knife, if you had $1 million to build a house and 20 people showed up as contractors, would you give them all that multi-tool with pliers, or would you give somebody a saw and somebody a hammer and somebody a screwdriver? No, you're going to use specialized tools and you're going to use what's best for each one of those pieces. And that's what WordPress with Showcase and choosing the right CRM, the right marketing agency to do things on top of it. That's what you get when you either do it yourself or you have somebody else assemble the best of the breed searches. Like, I'm never like, I've been to websites that use Real Geeks or Sync or KV Core. I'm not going to use those to do my home search, but I will use that with a Showcase IDX. Are they the best CRMs? I actually personally prefer Follow Boss. Follow Boss is my favorite, like pure real estate CRM. Now there's others that are okay, but it's like, but does KV Core get by with it? Yeah, it's really good. You just have to know how to use it. So that's kind of how I choose to explain to people is, do you want that set of pliers that kind of folds out to get a knife and a screwdriver, or do you want like a stack of the best tools and somebody that'll help put that together for you?
Oh, thanks for that. Over to you, Rob.
I'm just laughing. Kurt, if you watched my KV Core review or my Follow-Up Boss review, you were more succinct about it, but you discover that I said almost word for word, identically what you just said. Like, certainly the spirit of the videos is the same.
Yeah.
It just made me laugh.
Well, that's why you're in the business that you're in.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit like MailRite CRM. It's pretty okay. The CRM that you use is the one that really works, you know.
Yes.
But I say to people, if you're really into really utilizing a CRM to the top level, you should look at Follow-Up Boss. It's the leader, but it's only but you should use one anyway to get started, because so many people that do have it, but they don't use it. Sorry, Rob, but
that's literally.
That's the key to me, and using it with other parts of marketing you should be doing. You should be doing drip campaigns. You should be sending out things. And so if I don't care what, like, I love Follow Boss, but I know people who have, I mean, I've told them that they should leave Follow Boss because they're not using it, whether it's them or the tools or the combination. It's not intuitive to those individuals. So they should find something that works well for them.
I'd like to do, if you're okay with it, Kurt and John, both of you, I would love to do 5 extra minutes of the show for bonus content. And the 5 extra minutes would be asking you, Kurt, if you're down, what your favorite integrations are that work in or around Showcase IDX. We started on the subject already with some of the conversation that we've had, so we're just going to continue on in this vein. But basically, I'm asking you if there's anything you haven't already said that you may want to say on the subject, and then that'll be that. Are you down? 5 more?
I'm good with that.
Okay. All right, John, are you down?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, lovely. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be right back, and then you can find the bonus content on the YouTube channel, and we hope that you tune in. It's going to be about Kurt's favorite integrations that work in or around Showcase IDX. 3, 2, 1. All right, here we are with bonus video content. We're back with John. We're back with Kurt, and I'm super excited to get into this. This is you've allowed me so much room here to lose my head a little bit on tangents, and John has not pushed back on me on the podcast. So I'm super excited by that. Now, like 3 of our audience may find like get something out of this,
I
but
think we've got a lot more than 3.
no, I mean
I'm not sure
we
it's
have
thousands, but it's in the high
to be
hundreds.
fair, we do have thousands of followers. I don't want to make you think you wasted your time, Kurt, but to be truthful, maybe 3 might get a lot of value out of it,
Yep.
but it's the right 3 is what I will say. So integrations that surround Showcase IDX. What do you have any favorites that like so let me just make sure that I'm pointing you in the right direction. Like, let's say you can feed your leads like through an integration seamlessly into another tool. Follow-up boss, we already talked about. That would be one for sure. But there's other places that you could send that data to. It's not alone. Like, you might have an email person that you like. You might have like just somebody who's going to use the list for email addresses, such as Happy Grasshopper, stuff like that. You might have do you have any favorites? Anybody that you really enjoy?
Well, I mean, 2. I'll go with the one that's much more generic, and I mean, and it is my favorite integration is with Zapier, because agents suffer from shiny object syndrome more than almost I think any other industry. And so, what I love about Zapier is it allows you to still have the core of your stack, and then when you want to try something, like, don't feel like you have to break your whole stack or your whole website. Zapier connects to almost anything. And so if you want to send something off, you have a new agency, you have a new freelancer, just set up another Zap. You don't have to worry about security in the back of your site that just shoots stuff off to them to play with stuff and mad scientists and see if it makes sense. So that's probably my overall favorite to a large degree. But I think on the geek side of it, especially when there's like a real inbound agency on the other side, Zapier, you can only send so much stuff through it. We have a premium integration, like with Follow Boss and Lion Desk, like we send all the search information, anything somebody does in your site along with that for those systems to do what they really do. We also send all of that through Slack. And what most people don't realize is Slack has just an incredible API. And since we send everything to Slack, which can be useful to trigger your different channels, and I'll go alert people, but it allows somebody with like a real inbound kind of experience to just get all the information they need to about a lead to trigger anything you want, as long as you can write to that Slack API. And so you don't have to worry about other things. And so that's kind of like the hidden thing. Not a lot of people do it, but man, those that do, it's like watching a Picasso or Van Gogh paint. When you go and go, you did what with our integration with Slack? I didn't even know that Slack had such a great API. But we have a partner named Agent Hub 360 that has their own CRM. They do ISA, the inside sales team. They do all sorts of things for their clients. And they were like, oh yeah, we just wrote to the Slack API and pulled all that stuff in. And then they told me about all this manual and automated stuff into their custom technology they built. And I was like, huh, why? And they were like, well, you said you didn't have an API that we could write to directly. So we just worked around it. And I was dumbfounded that it was possible. But it's also a thing of beauty.
Beautiful. Well, that was literally the gem I was hoping to get. I had not even thought of that. I knew that Slack has a good API. I knew you could transfer data back one place to another. I couldn't, until you just said it to me, I wouldn't have been able to envision like an application.
It's basically the same thing as like so many CRMs that have an email parser where it's the same format you send it out. You can do that to Slack messages.
Fascinating. Probably most useful for an agency like that has the inside sales team already. I'm having take my most tech forward brokerage that I work with, and they wouldn't be able to pivot to something like that. It would take like an agency level doing the work for the client, somebody really tech forward on it to understand why you'd want to like go into a broad communication platform like Slack. But I use Slack for my entire team.
Yeah. For the teams that use, I mean, there are agent teams and brokerages that use Slack wonderfully well, but it's also just very easy to be able to say, hey, look, when you send the lead off through all your normal channels, whatever CRM you use. And then when the person comes back and they look on their, and they bring up their 5th property, or they bring up their 8th property, and send a separate pull from the Slack thing, a different triggering mechanism that alerts to the agent that it was assigned to, and their, maybe their team lead or their coach as well, because it gives the coach a reason to kind of prompt as well, being like, hey, Bobby's back to looking on your site again. Did you call them? Because there is something to be said for Tom Ferry opening almost all of his, webinars and live streams, being like, have you done your cold calls today? Well, have you called your past clients today? And so, like, usually if people aren't back in their systems and looking at it, they don't get triggered on those things. So
yeah. Beautiful. Great point, Saul. John, I'm so happy right now. So do you have anything
you're happy. Yeah. I brought joy
unbelievably.
There we go. So another thing that we've pushed for over 18 months is video. So have you found with all the clients that you're working with, does video really work in making that client that hits that website and turn it into an actual real client? And it's kind of linked to the title of the show, building these relationships and building them into real dream customers. So how important do you think video is on the website and integrating it with Showcase IDX?
I think it's great for the website, but I think it's actually better just for social channels and the emails that you send out. Because I think where most agents mess up on their marketing, whether it's in emails or their social channels, is they tend to only do content that would be of interest to active buyers. And so if somebody's like, hey, here's a new listing, here's the home I just closed, like pretty picture, like that's the content that's interesting for people when they're looking to buy. Well, the problem is if you do the math, if it takes 6 months to buy a house from when somebody's like starts looking to closing, when somebody moves on average every 10 years, that means at any one time, only 5% of your current database is actively buying and selling. So if all you're putting out is content that's of interest to somebody when they're actively buying and selling, they're not gonna pay attention to social. They're gonna stop opening your emails. What content's useful to people for the other 95% of the time? Well, video tends to be able to be that way that you can tell the stories that walk straight out, whether it's like, hey, the festival that's going on, or we have a mortgage broker in Roswell, Georgia. I find myself, I actually have to like not click on his video sometimes because he's just a good storyteller. It does remind me that he's a mortgage broker, but he's not telling me stories as if he's just a broker. Like, one of the stories he left, he doesn't ever share, customer information, but like he left a meeting with somebody that he's like, look, I'm trying to help this person get a new home. And I got to the part where it's like, all right, where did you live for the last 3 years? And he's like, the guy was incarcerated. And so he's done all the right things. He's come through. He's trying to integrate back in society. And he's telling this story that by the end of it, Alan's crying in the video. And I realized at the end of it, I've watched like a 17-minute video that I did not have 17 minutes that day. And but he's telling the story. It's like, this is somebody who's trying to do everything, but he's on like his 3rd bank. He's trying to get applications, but because he doesn't have 3 years of residential, like, addresses, like, no. And Alan's like, he's like, I'm going to help this person get a home. And I'm like, so that just tugged my heartstrings, reminded me he was a broker. Another one, he popped up. He is like, look, I'm trying to figure out how to help a really wealthy person buy a second home. And he was like, and I can't, and I've never run into this before. The person had written a $50,000 seed investment check to a medical marijuana company in Colorado or California. Legal, but by federal banking rules, he was getting turned down by banks. And so Alan, like, he kind of set it up as that, but then he was like, have you ever thought that, because I've written some angel investment checks, that wherever, so like, at this point, he's not telling me stuff if I'm not trying an active buyer or seller. He's telling me that, Kurt, you write angel investment checks. And did you know about where, depending on what check you write, not only might you not be able to get a mortgage, you might not be able to get other loans from your bank. And I'm like, I have no idea about that. That was like a 15-minute video.
So what checks have you been writing, Kurt?
His whole thing was, he goes like, it was really clear, like he wouldn't have thought about it, but a medical marijuana company, but he was like, there are other categories, and he happened to know a number of them at the time. And he was like, I just saw this list and like, I hadn't thought about it. And I was like, what? and I was like, that's perfect content that you're not going to, nobody's going to take that and write that into a long form blog post. How would you even do that to a point that like nobody's typing for that keyword, but doing it as a video? He walks out of a meeting, he just pops out and he tells the story right away. I don't know when he actually uploaded it. But like he gets it out of his mind. Is it a little rambling? Yes, but it's a wonderful video that drives people back to the site. I don't know how many referrals he's got because it's softly reminding me that he's the mortgage broker. And that's something that you have to have an email platform and inbound marketer.
What's his name? He sounds like an amazing storyteller, and that's my jam, man. What's his name?
Alan Christian. He's a mortgage broker in Roswell, Georgia. So,
well, let's end the show there, guys. I've gotten an Alan Christian mortgage team referral. He's even got a strong.
He'll know my name if you reach out to him. You should have him on your podcast.
John, you're the outreach guy. If I link you this guy's website, will you reach out?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I will do that. I think that would be a super fun follow-up show to this one to say Kurt, that would be the first referral that we got from a guest to another guest. That would be awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I can't even begin to tell you how much fun that I personally have had. Hopefully John would agree. I've had a great time talking to you about all things. I've already messaged my lead developer and told him, asked him how much trouble it would be for us to build a site with Showcase, to which he responded, not easily. So I don't know if we can do that or not, but I'm looking into it, all based on this show that we just did. So anyway, thanks for the time. How would you like people to reach out to you, if you even like people reaching out to you?
Well, if they want to know anything about Showcase.EX, they can go to showcase.ex.com. But I'm doing a lot of writing about servant leadership and some of the stories from my journey on kurtuhlir.com. And I actually welcome people to reach out, especially if you're reading something and you're like, I have a question, leave me a comment because I will likely write a follow-up article about it.
Awesome. And John, how about you?
Just go over to the mel-wright.com website, have a look at what we've got to offer. And if you're interested, book a free consultation with me.
Beautiful. And I fall into the line of storytelling like Kurt's been talking about. My videos are all long form on my own website, and tearjerkers too. So go to InboundREM.com. If you want to learn more about me, you will learn more than you ever thought possible on my website. So thank you so much for everybody for tuning in. Go ahead, John.
Before you finish, folks, I normally make Rob cry at the end of these shows.
Not always untrue. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We always appreciate your patronage. We know your time is valuable, and we're glad that you spent some of it with us. We'll see you the next time, or you'll hear us the next time.